Welcome back to So What Does That Mean? The podcast where we break down engineering, planning, and construction in plain English. I'm Brendan from JC Engineers.
And I'm Jo. If you're a developer, builder, homeowner, or just someone trying to make sense of the construction world, you're in the right place.
Every episode, we take a topic that costs people real money, real time, and real stress, and we unpack it so you actually understand what's going on, why it matters, and what you can do about it.
No jargon walls, no lectures, just practical, common sense advice from the people who see these problems every single day. All right, Brendan, today I want to talk about something that is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable: building defects. And not just, the paint's a bit patchy defects. We're talking about structural stuff, waterproofing failures, things that are genuinely dangerous. And you reckon it's way worse than most people realize.
Yeah, and honestly, I debated how blunt I should be about this one because the numbers are confronting. But I think people deserve to know what's actually happening out there, especially if you're about to spend $500,000 on a new home. So let's get into it.
Okay, you've warned me this one's confronting, so let's see the receipts. How bad is the defects problem in Australia right now?
Let me start with Queensland specifically, because that's where most of our work comes from, and that's where the QBCC has actually published some really detailed data. The QBCC's 2025 industry snapshot broke down the most common building defects across 24 and 25. And the list is, honestly, it's the basics. Internal paint application was the single most reported defect. 1,875 individual items across 315 cases. That's paint. Then you've got driveways, walls, roofs, floors. These aren't exotic, complex problems. These are fundamentals of building a house.
So the most common defects are the simple stuff?
The simple stuff. And here's what makes that worse. The cost of fixing them is anything but simple. The Queensland Home Warranty Scheme data for 24-25 shows the average claim for defective waterproofing was $25,000. $25,000 to fix waterproofing that should have been done right the first time. And waterproofing isn't even a difficult trade to get right if you follow the standards and the manufacturer's instructions. It's just that people cut corners. They rush it. They don't supervise it properly. And then 18 months later, you've got water coming through your bathroom floor, into the ceiling below, mold growing behind the walls, and a bill that makes your eyes water. No pun intended.
Okay, I don't think the homeowner would find that pun very funny. Okay, so that's Queensland. What about the national picture?
The national picture is worse. We mentioned this back in episode 13, but it bears repeating. In Victoria alone, housing defects cost nearly $1 billion per year. $1 billion in a single state. And a Melbourne building inspector who's inspected thousands of new homes was asked if he could point to one, just one, that was fully compliant. His answer was, find one and I'll do the inspection for free. His view is that the percentage of new builds in Australia that are guaranteed non-compliant is 100%.
100%. Every single new home has at least one defect.
Now look, that's one inspector's view, and I want to be fair about it. But he's not some random bloke. He's someone who has physically inspected thousands of properties, and honestly, from my own experience, I'd say he's not far off. The question isn't really whether there are defects. The question is how serious they are and whether anyone catches them before they cause real damage.
And people don't catch them, do they? They move in, they're excited, they're not crawling around looking for problems.
Exactly. And that is where the time limits become critical. In Queensland, for structural defects, you've got 6 years and 6 months from practical completion to lodge a complaint with QBCC. For non-structural defects, and this catches people out, it's just over 12 months from completion. 12 months. So if you don't notice your driveway is cracking, or your floor tiles are uneven, or your render is delaminating within 12 months of handover, you may have lost your window to get the QBCC involved.
That is a shockingly short window of time. What about the warranty insurance?
The Queensland Home Warranty Scheme requires builders to take out insurance on residential work valued over $3,300. But, and this is important, the scheme is designed as a last resort. Primarily kicks in when the builder can't or won't rectify. For example, if they've gone bust. And with and 96 construction companies collapsing nationally in the 2025 financial year, the highest on record, as we discussed in episode 15. The scenario isn't hypothetical anymore. It's happening every week.
So you've got defects in nearly every new home. We've got tight deadlines to report them. And now a growing chance your builder won't even exist when you need them to come back and fix things.
That's the trifecta. Yeah. And here's the number that ties it back to engineering specifically. Multiple studies, Australian and international, consistently find that around 70% of all rework in construction traces back to design and documentation errors. Not site mistakes, not bad tradies, design errors. Incomplete drawings, uncoordinated details, clashes between structural and hydraulic. Things that should have been resolved on paper before anyone poured concrete. And that rework contributes to over 50% of all cost growth on project.
So more than half of every budget blowout is stuff being done twice because the paperwork was wrong.
More than half. And here's the cruel irony, the she'll be right mentality. The idea that you can sort it out on site, figure it out as you go, deal with it later. That mentality is the single most expensive approach to construction. Every dollar you save by skipping proper engineering, proper documentation, proper coordination, you spend $5 to $10 fixing the consequences later. Every single time.
So let me recap these for the listeners. Most common defects are basic stuff like painting, driveways, walls. $5,000 average to fix waterproofing defects in Queensland. Nearly $1 billion a year in defects in Victoria alone. Potentially 100% of new builds have some level of non-compliance. 12 months to report non-structural defects. Record numbers of builders going bust. 70% of rework caused by design errors. And over half of all cost blowouts are rework.
And the solution to the vast majority of it is getting the design and documentation right before construction starts. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's the single most effective thing anyone can do to protect themselves.
Okay, so let's talk about this she'll be right culture. Because I think a lot of people in construction genuinely believe that good tradies can work things out on site. Is that completely wrong?
No, look, skilled tradies can absolutely solve problems on site. And many do, brilliantly. But there's a difference between solving a minor coordination issue and making structural or waterproofing decisions without engineering input. The QBCC Standards and Tolerance Guide exists precisely because there needs to be an objective benchmark, not just, looks all right to me. The she'll be right problem isn't about tradies. It's about a system that doesn't invest enough in documentation up front and then expects people on site to just fill the gaps. A footing detail that doesn't account for reactive soil, for example. The concreter pours what's on the drawings, and 2 years later the slab cracks. That's not the concreter's fault. That's a documentation failure.
Okay. So what about the private certifiers? Because they're supposed to be the safety net, right? Like they inspect the work and they sign it off.
Private certifiers and in Victoria building surveyors play a critical role, but they're under enormous pressure. They're inspecting at mandatory hold points, footings, frames, and finals. But they're not there every day watching every pour and every fixing. The system relies on the builder self-certifying a lot of the intermediate work. And that only works if the builder's documentation is solid. The certifier is often chosen and paid by the builder, not the homeowner. So there's an inherent tension in the relationship. Homeowners should seriously consider getting independent inspections at key stages, not just relying on the certifier. An independent engineer at frame stage can catch problems that would cost 10 times more to fix after plasterboard goes up.
Okay, so you mentioned waterproofing as a major issue. Why does it keep going wrong? It's 2026. We've been building bathrooms for a long time.
Yeah, and waterproofing doesn't just apply to bathrooms, but waterproofing failures are consistently in the top defects nationally. And the consequences are among the most expensive and destructive. The reasons are almost always the same. Rushing the application, not following the manufacturer's instructions, not allowing proper curing time, poor detailing at junctions and penetrations. There's a coordination issue. The waterproofing needs to work with the structural design, the hydraulic design, and the floor fall design. If any one of those is wrong, the waterproofing is compromised. Some QBCC data. Average claim for defective waterproofing is $25,000, but the real cost can be much higher when you factor in mold remediation, structural repair to water damage framing, and the disruption to the homeowner. And the fix is simple. Engage a waterproofing specialist, follow the standards, and have it independently inspected before tiling. A $500 inspection can prevent a $50,000 problem.
Okay. So, what should homeowners actually do to protect themselves, especially people building new homes right now?
Step 1. Get independent inspections. Don't rely solely on the builder's certifier or building surveyor. Engage your own engineer or building inspector at footings, frame, pre-plaster, waterproofing, and final stages. Step 2. Understand your defect reporting deadlines. 12 months for non-structural, 6 years and 6 months for structural. Put reminders in your calendar. Document everything with photos and dates from day one. Step 3. Check your builder's QBCC record before you sign. The QBCC maintains a public register. You can look up license history, demerit points, and any previous directions to rectify. And in Victoria, that's the Building and Plumbing Commission. Step 4. Insist on complete documentation. If your engineer or designer is giving you sketchy, incomplete drawings, that's a red flag. Good documentation is your first line of defense against defects. The common sense message: trust, but verify. The best builders welcome independent inspections because they're confident in their work. If someone pushes back on you for getting independent set of eyes on site, ask yourself why.
Okay. So, if someone's listening to this and feeling a bit uneasy about their build, what's their best move?
Don't panic, but don't ignore it either. Get someone independent to have a look. An engineer, a qualified building inspector, someone who doesn't have a stake in telling you everything's fine. If there are issues, the earlier you catch them, the cheaper and simpler they are to fix. Waiting is what turns a $5,000 problem into a $50,000 disaster.
And that's the JCE approach, isn't it? Catch it early, fix it properly, move on.
That's it. We'd rather have a hard conversation with you at the design stage than watch you deal with a QBCC or Building and Plumbing Commission complaint 2 years after you've moved in. Prevention is always cheaper than cure.
Love it. If this one hit home for you, share it. Send it to someone who's building right now. It might be the most valuable 30 minutes they spend this week.
And if you've got a story or a topic you want us to cover, hit us up through the JCE website or on our socials. We genuinely read everything.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
See you on the next one.